It is mental health concern. It's a mental health concern seen throughout the U.S. and around the world, post-traumatic stress disorder, more commonly called PTSD, and it is estimated that about 13 million people in the U.S. are living with the disorder. So in honor of June being PTSD Awareness Month, AdventHealth Porter Behavioral Health Clinical Supervisor Joe Oria is here to tell us more. First and foremost, Joe, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we're taking the time to highlight PTSD. So why don't we just start with, how would you describe PTSD to our reviewers?
So to start, as you mentioned, PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. And essentially, people have a lot of things that happen to them throughout their lives that are very shocking and very stressful and are very intense. And one of the things is that, it can take days, a couple of weeks to kind of get past, but when you're starting to get into a disorder and something that can really impact your life, we're talking about you are starting to isolate, you're starting to be a little bit more suspicious of others, you're not doing the activities that you want to do, and this is happening for a period of months.
Yeah, and I can only imagine how debilitating that is. I was someone that suffered from postpartum depression, separate from PTSD, but I understand the isolating, I understand how much resources can help. So before we get into that, how would you describe PTSD affects someone's day-to-day, not only with work, but also just themselves, their relationships?
Yeah, it impacts it quite a bit, and it really can. And one of the hallmarks of PTSD is that people who are living with it have a hard time trusting individuals that they're really going through what they're going through. You didn't experience this, whether it was direct or indirect. Because you didn't experience this, you can't really understand what I'm going through. So it impacts their relationships with other people in a negative way, whether it's work, whether it's home, whether it's with friends and everybody that they could be in their lives. So it's very isolating, and sometimes it's active isolation where people want to retreat back because of that feeling.
Yeah, it's like a disorder that doesn't want to get treated. It doesn't want to get help. And it's no way to live. And I just have so much empathy for people going through it, because they do, at the end of the day, want to live a normal life.
Right.
So what are some common symptoms? I know you talked about, I want everybody watching, especially because it is PTSD Awareness Month. So isolation.
Yes.
Maybe being combative when somebody's trying to get them help. What else would you say? Okay, red flag, perhaps someone you love needs help, or you yourself.
So two things that I think about. One of them is what we call hypervigilance, which is like this stress of constantly being over-aware, right? And looking over your shoulder and being suspicious of individuals. And then the other part being avoidance. So you're avoiding activities that may remind you of the trauma that you had survived. So for example, if you happen to be in a car accident, for example, and it was a really bad car accident, for a few days or for a couple of weeks, you may not necessarily want to drive, or you may flinch a little bit when a car comes your way. But when we're talking months, now you don't want to get into a car.
Right.
Now you don't want to get into a car with anybody, right? So you're starting to avoid those activities, which, in here in Denver, it's not super easy to get around without a car, right? As an example. So that's where we really start to look at those things, hypervigilance and avoidance.
Okay, so we are almost out of time. I want to make sure that you give any resources.
Yes.
If anybody out there is suffering, what can they do? Where do they go?
So my favorite resource is the National Center for PTSD. So it's run by the VA because the VA does a majority of the PTSD research. It has everything. What is PTSD? What are the treatments, such as EMDR, prolonged exposure, cognitive processing therapy? It's got all of that in one place. If you are suffering, or if you have a family member, friend, go there. Check out all the resources. It'll be great help.
Life-saving advice, Joe. Thank you so much of AdventHealth for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.